Just when the world seemed poised to celebrate yet another chapter of the Forrester clan's enduring legacy, Taylor newly engaged and ready to step into the future, Steffi determined to prove her loyalty, Ridge once more convinced that love would conquer all. A shocking message shattered the fragile peace, Luna's escape. The news came in whispers at first, hushed phone calls and frantic texts racing through the corridors of Forrester Creations as Ridge paced his office, jaw clenched, heart hammering. Luna, the troubled young woman once caught in a web of tragedy and guilt over the death of her husband, had vanished from the rehabilitation center under the cover of darkness. Within hours, a desperate alert flickered on Finn's phone. Luna spotted at Hayes Elementary. Protect the boy. Steffi's blood ran cold. She tore through the hallways of the school, her heels echoing against tile as she burst into the classroom where little Hayes, Finn's son, her godson, the boy she had grown to love like her own, sat coloring quietly. Luna stood at the front, her eyes wild with fear and resolve, her once ashen hair now cropped close and jet black, face pale but determined. A letter clutched in her hand bore the Forrester seal and a single word, Mother. Steffi's scream cut through the stunned silence. She leapt forward, arms outstretched, but Ridge's voice thundered in her mind, Keep him safe. In an instant, Steffi scooped the boy into her arms and sprinted from the classroom, Luna's desperate pleas echoing in her ears. Hayes needs to know the truth. He deserves his mother. As the school's principal locked the doors and teachers gathered their charges in safety, Ridge incarnated authority. He issued a family-wide command over the private channel, his tone devoid of doubt. Find Luna before she finds Hayes again. Everyone is to search every inch of this city until she is in custody. Hope, Brooke, Eric, Quinn, all rallied at his side, phones in hand, coordinating with local law enforcement. Helicopters whirred overhead, search teams combed parks and parking lots. The city's Amber Alerts broadcast Luna's face across billboards and streaming services. Yet while the Forresters mobilized their vast resources, one person lurked in the shadows, Sheila Carter. Ever the opportunist, she recognized the leverage that Luna's desperation could bring and offered sanctuary in return for a priceless prize, Hayes's custody. She guided Luna through a labyrinth of back alleys to Deacon's forgotten studio apartment, a cramped, dusty place filled with old hotel soaps and empty whiskey bottles. There, she whispered her real plan. I have the Forrester power you need. Once you have Hayes, they will come to me. I will bargain his fate for your freedom. And for my own revenge against Taylor and Ridge. Luna trembled, torn between maternal instinct and fear of the man she had lost, the tragedy she could never undo. Tears streaked down her cheeks as she clutched the letter declaring Hayes her son, and her confession that she was his birth mother, forced to give him up to protect him from her own spiral of self-destruction. Meanwhile, Ridge's empire of search was closing in. He stormed into Taylor's sunlit loft, voice raw with fury and worry. She's taken Hayes. If Luna gets her hands on him, nothing will stop her. Taylor's engagement ring caught the morning light as she rushed to his side, mixing dread with determination. We cannot let her win, she whispered. But he's a child. We need to appeal to her heart. Ridge's eyes hardened. Heart? She's on the run. We need proof she's unfit. We need the truth on television. We go live. Taylor confesses everything, admits her own darkest secrets, begs Luna to surrender. Taylor recoiled at the suggestion, to air her confession, her murder secret, before the world, to save a boy she barely knew. Yet as Ridge paced, ripping open a series of memos condemning the Forresters, Taylor saw no choice. Deception would only fuel Luna's despair, only unvarnished truth could pierce her resolve. On live television that evening, the stage was set in the Forrester boardroom, rows of cameras, bright lights, an audience of friends, family, and media. Brooke stood at Taylor's side, a reassuring presence despite the tension crackling in the air. Ridge sat before the cameras, steely and steadfast, while Steffi hovered at the back, eyes brimming with tears. The anchor's voice rang out. Tonight, in an extraordinary plea, Taylor Hayes Forrester will speak directly to Luna, the birth mother of Hayes Spencer, who has taken refuge with notorious criminal Sheila Carter. Taylor inhaled, heart pounding like a drum. When the red light blinked, she spoke. Luna, if you're watching this, please know I understand your pain. I know what it's like to lose someone you love, to feel guilt that consumes you. But hurting this child, who is innocent, who deserves love and stability, is not the answer. She paused, lips trembling. I have secrets, Luna. I have made mistakes that haunt me every day. But I stand before the world to tell you that this child's safety is more important than my reputation. I am willing to go to jail, to face whatever consequences, if only you will release Hayes and let him come home. Please. The boardroom was silent except for the hum of cameras. Ridge reached for Taylor's hand and squeezed it, his unspoken promise. I have your back. Then the anchor cut in. Luna, we know you're out there. For Hayes' sake, please surrender. You are not alone. There are people who want to help you. Across the city, the broadcast reached Deacon's apartment. Luna pressed her trembling hand to the glass, tears streaming as Taylor's words washed over her like a balm. She glanced at Sheila, whose poker face betrayed nothing, yet behind those cold eyes a storm churned. Would she honor her bargain? Luna clutched the letter to her chest as memories of the night she gave Hayes up flickered. The hospital bed, his tiny fingers wrapped around hers, the whispered promise that he would have a better life. She had fled, believing that without her, he could thrive. Now she saw that her absence only wounded him more. With a sob, she turned to Sheila. I'm done running. Sheila's lip curled in triumph as she dialed Ridge's number. Within minutes, the Forrester security team burst into the apartment. Luna emerged, arms raised, and collapsed to her knees in surrender as Ridge entered behind the police. He embraced her gently, tears in his eyes. Steffi rushed forward to scoop Hayes into her arms, planting kisses on his cheek. In the crowded lobby, Taylor collapsed to her knees before Luna, offering forgiveness and gratitude. On live television, the anchor cut back to the boardroom. Ridge stood and addressed the cameras, voice solemn. Tonight, a mother's love nearly cost a child his safety. But with courage, compassion, and truth, we have found Hayes and restored him to the family who will give him the life he deserves. Thank you all for caring. The cameras panned to Taylor, Brooke, and Steffi, their faces etched with relief and exhaustion. Behind them, Luna stood, flanked by a guardsman, her shoulders stooped yet unbroken. Ridge turned to Taylor and whispered, Thank you for saving him, and for being who you are. Taylor nodded, tears glistening. Steffi took Hayes' hand and led him to Luna, who dropped to one knee. Hayes, she whispered, voice shaking, I'm your mother. Hayes looked up, uncertain, then wrapped his small arms around Luna's neck. The moment crackled with raw emotion, fear, joy, forgiveness entwined in a single embrace. As the cameras cut away, the Forrester family gathered around, forming a protective ring. Brooke slipped an arm around Taylor, murmuring, We did it. Steffi rested her head on Finn's shoulder as he whispered, Thank you for fighting for him. Luna looked to Ridge, who offered a gentle nod. We'll work this out. Together. And in that moment, beneath the harsh glare of spotlights and the weight of untold secrets, the Forresters learned anew that love, however tested, could still triumph when truth led the way. Finn's world spun on its axis when Steffi's casual reassurance, spoken in hushed tones over their breakfast table, crumbled into a revelation more devastating than any betrayal he had ever imagined. Only hours before, she had brushed off his questions about late-night meetings with Ridge Forrester as routine discussions to salvage the company's latest collection. Now, as Finn stared at the blurred words on his phone screen, texts exchanged between Ridge and Steffi outlining a clandestine pact to shield Taylor's crime at all costs, he felt the foundations of his marriage quake beneath him. The yacht's polished deck on which they had toasted their future was a distant memory. Instead, he found himself trapped in a prison of doubt, each heartbeat echoing with the accusation that his beloved wife had kept him in the dark, placing loyalty to the Forrester name above their bond. He recalled Steffi's gentle touch as she placed a hand on his arm, her eyes flickering with something between guilt and determination. He remembered how she laughed when he teased her about being secretive, urging him not to worry. Had that laughter been a mask, a way to deflect the guilt that now threatened to drown him? As he confronted her in their stateroom, the midday sun filtering through portholes like shards of harsh truth, Steffi's composure cracked, her voice catching as she admitted that Ridge had begged her to keep Finn from learning the full scope of the arrangement. Bargains struck in the shadows, legal loopholes exploited to ensure Taylor's darkest secret remained buried. "I did it for us," she pleaded, voice trembling. "For our family. For our future." But Finn's heart had already slipped beyond reach, shattering like fine crystal under the weight of her confession. His hand trembled as he turned away, fighting the urge to collapse to his knees, and in that moment, he felt the insidious whisper of Sheila Carter coil around his mind. Sheila, whose very name had once been on the edge of his nightmares, seized the fissure in his trust with the predatory precision of a shark drawn to blood. She appeared at his cabin door with improbable timing, her silk blouse and perfectly coiffed hair a stark contrast to the venom in her gaze. "You look like someone grappling with the truth," she murmured, stepping inside unbidden. Finn recoiled as though she had branded him, but her presence was magnetic, a siren call that he could not resist. The yacht's corridors had been quiet since the scandal erupted, guests sequestered, whispers ricocheting off the polished rails, and in that silence, Sheila's words were deafening. She told him of Ridge's long history of betrayal, of how the Forresters had always treated him as an outsider, an upstart doctor who owed his place to Steffi's devotion rather than merit or blood. She described Ridge's clipped courtesy, his polite nods that concealed contempt, reminding Finn of every time he'd felt Ridge's disapproval in board meetings and family gatherings, of the way Ridge's gaze would flicker with impatience when Finn offered suggestions about the company's wellness initiatives. "Don't you see?" Sheila hissed, her voice silk and steel. "They don't value you. They never have. Steffi used you to prop up her mother's lies, and Ridge manipulated her love for you to cover his own sins." Finn's chest tightened, his mind replaying the countless moments he had brushed off Brooke's pointed questions about Steffi's loyalties. The time Hope had warned him that Steffi's fierce protectiveness of Taylor sprang from a blind spot no man could pierce. Each memory, now tainted by Sheila's insinuations, felt like a lie he had told himself. He turned away, moving toward the porthole, as if the horizon might offer answers. Sheila followed, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Your mother would never lie to you. She raised you on truth, on the belief that family is everything. She's the only one you can trust now." The name Mom in Sheila's mouth was a blade twisting in his heart. He remembered her embrace when he was a boy, her lullabies, the fierce pride in her eyes at his medical school graduation. Could he betray her now by siding with the Forresters? Or would he betray Steffi by believing a woman who had wrought chaos in their lives for decades? The choice loomed before him like a precipice. Standing there, torn between the wife who had vowed to build a life with him and the mother whose love had shaped him, Finn felt the room tilt and his heart fracture. He recalled the night Ridge had confessed his own complicity to Taylor's secret. He remembered how he had rushed to Steffi's side, offering unwavering support while the Forrester patriarch looked on with a mix of gratitude and entitlement. He remembered Ridge's half-smile as Finn pledged to protect the family's reputation, unaware that the moment Steffi learned of his promise, She had twisted it into a noose around his future. Sheila's words echoed in his ears, a steady drumbeat of doubt and accusation, while Steffi's tear-streaked face haunted his vision. He reached for his phone, fingers hovering over Ridge's contact, then his mother's. The hum of the engines beneath the deck thrummed like a heartbeat gone awry. Outside, the ocean stretched endlessly, reflecting the turbulent skies overhead. He swallowed hard, tasting the bitter tang of betrayal and fear. This was his crucible. To stand by the woman he loved, to forgive her secrecy in the name of the man she had saved and the children they might have, or to heed the woman who had given him life, whose compassion had mended his youngest wounds, and exposed the underhanded pacts that threatened to destroy everything he held dear. In that moment of silent reckoning, Finn closed his eyes and chose neither path outright. Instead, he summoned a steadiness he had honed in trauma wards and hospital corridors. He would demand the whole truth from Steffi, in public, where the light was harsh and the stakes immeasurable. He would confront Ridge and lay bare the betrayal that had cost him his trust. And then, he would turn to his mother, to uncover the motives behind her timing and her words, to know whether this was a mother's love guiding him or a master manipulator honing a knife in the dark. As he opened his eyes, resolve settled in his spine. He stepped away from the porthole and dialed Steffi's number. The call connected, and his voice, when he spoke, was calm but irrevocable. "We need to talk now." The choice remained, but Finn Forrester had taken his first step toward the reckoning that would determine not just his future with Steffi or his bond with Sheila, but the very definition of family and loyalty in a world where secrets had cost too many lives already.